It is that time for us to get talking about business, and today it's going to be an exciting one. You want to know why? Well, we're going to be touching on, uh, or rather, looking at the profession of law, but this time from the business perspective. I'm so excited to talk about this because when you see lawyers, you're like, how do they even make their money? That's usually the first thing that comes to my head. How do they use all the legal jargon to make money? Well, thankfully, we'll be talking about that, touching a little bit on corporate law. And for anyone who is aspiring to be a lawyer, this is where you want to be. You want to get all those notes, take notes, as my guest, who is Temi Dosunmu. He is the managing partner at Pearl and Pearson's law firm. He's going to be sharing great insights. Like I said, have your pen and paper, your pen and paper. But if not, if you're, the savvy ones, already have your phone. So you can get all the insights and then transcribe later and figure out how things work for you. With that, I want to say a pleasant evening to you. How's your day been, by the way?
Thanks for having me. My name is Temi, and I've had a very productive day.
Awesome. I'm glad that you've had a productive one. So you're going to be giving us tidbits on how lawyers make money.
Let's get right into it.
Well, Lagos, we also are part of Business Hub this evening, as always. What you want to do is share your thoughts, questions, and contributions on WhatsApp. The number still remains 0911 999 0981 0911 999 And with that, let's get talking to Tammy and figuring out how lawyers how the legal luminaries get to make their money. Well, I know that first off, law is diverse. It's a diverse practice. But I know you're in corporate law.
Yeah.
Okay, so what makes your side of the business or of law doesn't make sense? What makes it
Business, yeah.
What makes it exciting for you?
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's a very powerful start. Okay. I mean, law is diverse, like you said, there are
Right.
various aspects to it. Uh, but what makes corporate law very diverse and also exciting um, is the fact that it more or less anticipates, risks, before they even happen.
Okay.
And with it, you also have to understand strategy. You also have to understand business. So it's not just law in terms of how people see law from that legal standpoint.
Right.
That boring legal standpoint. So you're more or less, working with, how markets move,
Okay.
how money moves, how, an ecosystem, for example, reacts, to one, risk or the other, right? So you're like a risk advisor, you are a compliance manager, you are more or less, in products, you are in compliance, you are in business. I mean, a whole lot of things together. Very interesting.
It's a one-stop shop. If you want to put it that way. But that is an exciting place to be in. Okay, so it's not just the ones that are standing before them.
Absolutely.
That can be boring. It's the way you said it. Said it. So in case you're wondering if where you want to, if you're a law student, you've graduated, or you're thinking of getting into the law profession, you're thinking, okay, so where's the parts that will make more money for you? Well, you know what to do. And you know where to be at. But let's bring it home. Let's bring it to Nigeria as a whole. Do corporations in Nigeria actually follow the law? Because some people say that it's not the way that you see things. It's not in black and white. And I'm not talking about the color. So, well, here's what I'm asking. Is breaking laws by firms what gives corporate lawyers an abundance of cases to work on?
Um,
Not I'm not trying to come for you. I'm just, putting out the hard questions there. So
That's
I
a
get an
hot
answer.
take. Okay. So for corporate lawyers who, work with corporations here. So corporations in Nigeria um, actually don't, disregard or break the law. The way
Okay.
people often think they do, or there's disregard for, law and regulations in Nigeria.
Right.
For companies who actually are in regulated sectors, for example,
Okay.
for companies listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange,
Awesome.
they are closely monitored when it comes to ensuring they
Mm.
abide by the provisions of the law. If, for example, you've opened shop to the public, your shares are listed on the exchange, you're a
Mhm.
PLC, for example, you
Mhm.
cannot wake up and do what you like. There are very, very strict rules,
That needs to be
deadlines,
followed.
yes, that needs to be followed. If you want to remain on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, for example, also, in those ecosystems like the crypto industry, for example, where SEC is doing a whole lot of licensing
Right.
and what have you. You cannot, payments also, the fintech space, for example,
Mhm.
companies in that space, as much as tech startups are quite flexible in operations and all of
Mhm.
that, regulations are also stepping in to ensure that the landscape is sane, right? And
Mm.
there's also compliance. We know, I don't want to mention this, but we know was the last year or two a popular payments company in Nigeria,
Oh, yes. Oh.
and they suffered some sort of regulatory backlash
Mhm.
because they failed
To
to
comply
comply.
with what was said law at that time.
Absolutely.
So it's not as people think that okay, lawyers help to get people out of quagmires.
Yes, yes. And to also answer your question about how corporate lawyers make their money, I think the best way for a corporate lawyer to make money is actually to be proactive
Okay.
and stay on top of the news, stay on top of regulations, and what basically the law says in fast-moving markets and ecosystems. So if you're in payment, for example, CBN is issuing one directive or the other, every other day, for example. So you've got to be on top of that. So if by the time the event has occurred, right, you as a
And you
corporate
did
lawyer,
not do your due diligence, you didn't check, research, that company could suffer. And
absolutely,
then you bear the brunt.
absolutely.
So it's not a just wing it
No, no,
kind
no,
of
no,
thing.
no. You've got to be deep in, the news. You've got to
Okay.
understand, strategy, business, and how products also work. So it's not just you sitting in your office, the law, and all of that. You've got to, have this cross-functional relationship with people in IT,
Okay.
for example, people in products, people in finance, because risk could come from all those.
Anywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
See why it is that they sit down and they study hard because making the money is not easy at
Yeah,
all.
not easy at all. Not easy at all.
Okay, so let's even talk about labor and employment because I know you also cover that sector as well.
Yeah.
What kind of cases exist there? Let's start with that. What kind of cases do you handle in that space?
Yes. We do a lot of deal with a lot of worker exploitation issues, right?
Right.
Because it's quite rife in Nigeria. But we're also beginning to see that the issues in our space are
Yeah.
actually more than just worker exploitation. For example, we recently started dealing with issues that have to do with business structuring. For example, I recall
Ooh.
last year or two, one of our teams, at our firm, were involved in restructuring the workforce of a particular entity, was an Italian oil giant. So they divested from Nigeria. So those workers, needed to be absorbed properly
Into
into the new business. So
okay.
those are issues that also, and these days, stuff like contract staffing arrangements, remote work arrangements, or where you have like a triangular relationship. There's a global employer outside, there's a Nigerian
Yeah.
outsourcing entity here, and then
Right.
there is the employee. So those are like emerging issues that we're
Okay.
also beginning to see beyond just worker exploitation issues, which are actually a lot too, right? It's
That's
a lot: pensions, minimum wage issues, gratuity, termination of contracts. So they are quite diverse, if you ask me.
I heard termination of contract. Okay. So someone abruptly says, I don't want you anymore. Then and someone runs to you and says, my boss says they don't need me anymore, and I've been here. the company also has a right to tell you when they don't need your services.
Absolutely. We're not saying he who can hire cannot fire.
Exactly.
Right? You can, but you should follow what the law says. And most times, the law actually refers you back to the contract. So if I do not follow the due process, which is
Okay.
where, employers who are hot-headed and they just want to get rid of, employees. And I mean, also for HR, practitioners, where they get their companies into trouble. I mean, it's not a bad thing to get rid of someone, but
Okay.
what is the
You
reason?
need to
Follow the due process, basically.
follow.
That's a topic for another day.
That's another conversation to have
Yeah.
some other day. But I really well when it comes to these cases,
Yeah.
I know you say you deal with a lot of them.
Yeah.
What has been the progress rate? I don't want to say conviction rate because
Okay.
nobody's been convicted and all that, but I want to know what has been the rate from actual from the legal standpoint.
Yeah.
How has it been for, say, the employee who has come through? Has it been a positive? Has it been negative? I'm not asking you to give me the exact numbers. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get a feel of how it works.
Yeah. Very fantastic question if you ask me. So in the last couple of years, particularly with the introduction of let me not bore you with the number, section 254 C1F. I just had to do that. Okay. So that new constitutional provision now means that let me put it this way. Nigeria can now import global best practices,
Okay.
right, when it comes to labor and employment matters
Okay.
into Nigeria. So if you ask me, that's one of like the most fluid, areas of the law we have in Nigeria today. As long as a lawyer can say this is what happens in this particular region, it is a global best practice and it should apply in Nigeria, even if the National Assembly has not amended the labor laws. As long as you can demonstrate to the courts
that it's a global
best
best
practice in employment, because it's bound by virtue of that constitutional amendment to accept that.
I'm not sure how companies feel about that, but
No, is that they're actually balanced because
okay.
Sometimes employees also can be unreasonable, right? And I don't envy the judges at the National Industrial Court because sometimes they also have to balance sustainability of business with exploitation. So where do we find the balance, right? You are claiming pension of this amount. Oh, I was fired. You're asking for billions of naira in damages, and what you're asking for can take out
that company
that company.
outrightly.
So where do we draw the balance?
Oh, okay. It's not a it's not an easy fix when you look at it. You
Yes.
still need to do some mental math and use some discretion to figure out, okay, so
But
how can we meet in the middle?
yes, so it has been very positive. Nigerian courts now recognize rights. You should not be, fired abruptly.
Okay.
Your contract should more or less speak, right? Things like, I mean, discrimination, sexual harassment in the workplace, constructive dismissal. That is when someone takes all your work from you and you're just coming to the office and you're just staring at your laptop. There's nothing, they've logged you out of your emails. I mean, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just imagining how that can happen without you, and you're just like, what happened? What happened? I can't get access. And that's a mental health issue. It's like taking your work from you. You are being paid, but there's nothing to do, and it's very deliberate. It's calculated, right? You're still being paid, yes, but you're not doing anything.
And they can use that against you. Oh my word. See why I say you need to figure out which one works best for you? It's not just reading law. Reading the lights, right? Getting into the right sector so you know which one works best for you. For you to tune into Business Hub here on Smooth 98.1. We're talking about the law. But this time around, we're taking a look at it from the business perspective. You want to be a part of Business Hub, share your thoughts and questions, contributions. We'll love that very much. 0911 999 0981. That is the number on WhatsApp to share your thoughts with us. And I've got with me Temi Dosunmu. He is the managing partner at Pearl and Pearson Law Firm. it's been an interesting conversation so far, especially for those who want to get into the space. But let's talk about real estate. Do you cover, as corporate lawyers, is that a sector that you also delve into?
Okay. Well, so real estate is commercial,
Okay.
right? I mean,
Well,
it's commercial in nature because there's value,
okay.
there's risk, and it's more or less business. I mean, real estate is everywhere in the world, for
Mm.
developed cities, developed markets, is not really about building. It's actually about the movement of money.
Okay. In actual fact, it's actually a movement of
Yeah,
money.
it's the movement of money. The building and all of that is just a very small aspect, right?
Okay.
So in real estate is actually finance. Real estate is actually investment. So
Mhm.
inevitably, when you're talking real estate, you're talking corporate law.
Okay. And we've seen so many interesting updates when it comes to real estate in Nigeria. What has been the prevalent um what is the word I'm looking for now? It's not just the cases,
Yeah.
but how prevalent have you how many prevalent cases have you had so far where real estate is concerned? Because we see there's this particular one that's always popping up on my timeline where this young chap is always calling out some real estate
Yeah.
companies and the likes. How does that even work from your standpoint?
Okay. So I've been doing real estate, practicing in the real estate space now as a lawyer for more than 10 years. And coincidentally, I was also born into a, real estate family.
Oh,
My
okay.
school fees were paid with real estate money.
Nice.
So, if you ask me, what we see now
Mhm.
is that there's a lot of inflow into that space in terms of capital
Right.
from particularly outside Nigeria. And that's why our firm, Pale and Pearson, we are diaspora
Oh,
focused,
okay.
right? Because the money that actually makes sense, or
Mm.
the greater part of the money that flows into real estate, in Nigeria is
It's
actually
from the
from
diaspora.
is from the diaspora,
Interesting.
right?
Oh,
I
I
mean,
thought it was here.
it's from the diaspora. I mean,
Okay.
interest rates and all of that here don't really sometimes
Oh
help.
my God.
So
Mm.
so what we see in the real estate space here is actually complex but also simple at the same time, right? So you have stuff around joint ventures, you have stuff around compliance, you have title verification, which also dispute resolutions. I mean, the fight over ownership structures, sharing formula. I mean, especially when it's even a commercial, real estate, for example,
Okay.
you have corporate tenants that need to be evicted. How do you go about that? For example, you also
It's not
have.
like it's not like your regular one where you just give everybody a notice that okay, we want you all gone.
No, no, no. Sometimes it's more complex. I mean, and it can get as complex as what you call a real estate investment trust. So that's like real estate on the Nigerian stock exchange, like a fund, right? Where some companies in Nigeria do that. You have UPDC REITs,
Okay.
and a couple of others. So what they do is that they set up, funds, real
Okay.
estate vehicles, or
Right.
like a trust. So instead of, I mean, you don't have maybe a 10,000 naira, you have 10,000 naira, and you
Okay.
want to play in the real estate space,
Right.
right? So SEC has now said you can give such
Some.
entities your money, right? Those entities buy properties, they flip them. Some of them, do Airbnb and they collect rent in dollars. So the returns on those
Mm.
investments.
It's what they now spread all around.
Absolutely. So it can be very
Nice.
simple
And
and
very
also can be
complex.
very complex. So one of the things we also started doing recently to also help, because there's a lot of cancel culture on social media, when it comes to real estate companies. I mean, allegations of fraud, scams, that's a topic for another day. So what we started doing was that we also set up like an entity known as LandSafe, diaspora facing. So what we do there is that between 24 to 48 hours,
Okay.
someone in the diaspora, maybe a Nigerian or someone who loves the Nigerian real estate space and wants to invest,
Mm-hmm.
can get
Access.
information
Oh,
from the documents,
okay.
that's your CFO, your governor's consent, to the actual status of the land. I mean, hope it's not situated close to a canal, hope it's not on the coastal road or whatever. You can actually get all of that information, in a very short period of time, leveraging on technology and artificial intelligence, basically.
I like the fact that you said we're leveraging on technology. Now let's talk about that because
Okay.
uh, life life now is tech.
Yes.
How has it been for you? especially where technology is concerned. I know that there's still some cases in the fintech industry.
Okay.
Give me an insight into how that also works.
Okay, how technology law works in Nigeria.
Yes.
Okay, very interesting if you ask me, and it's not novel actually. It's just that now we are, getting
In
into
the forefront now.
now, particularly because of artificial intelligence, which is
Right.
like where we are and where we are going, and more or less, disrupt and shape every other thing. Or not even disrupt, maybe destroy, you know,
Possibly not.
everything that has been
One
built.
thing I know, AI cannot take away jobs as people think. So people need to stop having that notion that AI is coming to take away people's job. It is people
Yeah,
who have that knowledge
yeah,
that will use AI and
yeah.
take away the job. That's the difference.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So for technology law in Nigeria, there are like
Right.
various aspects of it. There's the intellectual property,
Mm-hmm.
has to do with
Mm.
licensing and all of that. Intellect like you hire you're a startup founder, you hire a programmer to build a particular product for you, maybe like a payment platform, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Those codes, for
They
example,
belong to you.
they belong to you, but that has to be contracted for, right? They
Okay.
have to be protected, right? Your innovation, for example, like is it patented and all of that? Else, it's just an idea sitting in your head if it's not protected.
Mm.
Moving on to fintech advisory, for example, right?
Okay.
In terms of compliance, so you are going to be storing people's data, their names, their email addresses, their phone numbers. There are regulations in Nigeria today
That
that
protects.
protect your data, right? And
But
companies,
sometimes people always have this, well, certain people have this notion that those things are being breached.
yes, I mean, we can't run away from the fact that they are being breached. And interestingly, a number of breaches have been investigated and enforcements have also occurred. I mean, I
Awesome.
don't want to mention it,
No.
banks and what have you. It's all
Mm-hmm.
in the news today.
Mm-hmm.
So some scapegoats have been made when it comes to these violations right in Nigeria, right? And even some, foreign entities who also play in Nigeria as well. So
Mm.
technology law, I mean, and for maybe aspiring lawyers listening, very interesting space. There's the privacy aspect, that's data protection.
Right.
There's the intellectual property aspect. There's the AML aspect of it, that's anti-money laundering, because technology actually makes it easy,
Easier to track.
yes, to actually launder money. But if you're an AML lawyer,
Right.
it makes it now easy for you to
Follow the trail.
follow the trail or follow the money, yeah, and tackle all of that, particularly because kidnapping, terrorism, and all of that requires these days a lot of technology to move money across borders, across markets, under the regulatory radar as it is. So it's quite interesting if you want to do maybe some FBI work.
Like that.
You could try that.
Like some FBI work.
Yeah.
But now let's touch a bit on entertainment because yes, I've I've seen that space where even certain lawyers who are in the entertainment business sometimes don't get it right. What exactly? How does that even play? I know you've talked on intellectual property, but let's talk about it where the entertainment sector is also concerned.
Yeah. So, very beautiful question. I'm sure a lot of listeners are getting maximum value from this, right? Entertainment law in Nigeria, I believe should be um, more or less like a specialist um, activity. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
not something that any kind of lawyer can just,
Delve into.
delve into.
Right.
You've got to understand the business, right?
Okay.
For example, in the music industry, how does it work? Things like, masters rights, licensing, and royalties. How does it work?
Okay.
I mean, what is the um, practical scenario, when a record label, signs an artist that doesn't know his rights from his left yet. I mean, at that point, the artist is ready to sell his organs, just make me famous,
Okay.
right? And at that point, the poorly drafted contract could get that artist into trouble. So imagine if that artist hires a lawyer who doesn't understand, where the line should stop in terms of what I'm assigning, my masters, my rights, my royalties. We've had cases in Nigeria where people even sold their stage names to some of these record labels under those
Sadly, yes,
contracts.
and they
And
had to
exactly, they
let
had to more or
go.
less forfeit, that name. So those are like some of the nuances. Interestingly, we, were appointed as, one of the, lawyers to in a very high profile entertainment law dispute, right? And my take also on that, and we're at the Federal High Court just a few weeks back to ensure that the right thing was done. Now, the funny thing about entertainment law in Nigeria is that apart from people coming online to come and cry, you blue mother and what have you, a lot of people don't really try to enforce their rights, right? So when you come, you call out this person, they settle in the back, and at the end of the day, the ecosystem suffers because you could have 1,001 issues like that, and there's no legal position, enforced that becomes like a precedent.
So you know where to, if anything happens in that same vein, okay, this is how to go about it.
Absolutely.
And deal with it.
Absolutely. So it's a specialist area and a very interesting one too.
I'm thinking about going back to school. I think this is where I want to be right now. I'm thinking going back to law school.
You can.
That's going to be an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I like the bunny. So at least I know where to start. But off the top of my heart, do you also? I'm talking about you and your firm.
Yeah.
Do you also get involved in election disputes?
Yeah, absolutely. We call them election petition cases.
Right.
We've been doing that now for 7 years or so. We've personally led trials. From presidential elections to, governorship, national and state House of Assembly elections, and elections are just around the corner.
Honestly, that's even why I raised that. We might see some people say, "No, it's not like that."
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes I wonder.
Yes.
Did you ever get justice as they think, or if it's just just off of the top of my head, just asking.
Interesting question. And what you call justice. So justice is what you ask for.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the things that concern election petition, in a nutshell, 60 seconds. What you ask for.
Okay.
The manner in which you're asking for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? More or less affects what you get. The outcome. So some people ask what is insufficient. Some people ask, we've seen cases in Nigeria where people, ask the court for contradictory reliefs, like saying the election, did not comply with the Electoral Act, and then swear me in as the winner. And the court came out to say you cannot
That's
ask.
Possible.
Exactly. People have made such mistakes before. So election matters in Nigeria are not just, people were voting me on election day and all of that. Also, the procedure is very strict. Right, you've got to follow it.
To the letter. Well, we've been schooled very well on legal matters. If you're an aspiring lawyer, you're thinking of where to go or how to get in this space and possibly make some money. You know where to go. It's not all about the money. There's some people, just thinking. You take pro bono cases, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So just know that in all, you have to still do free work. Yeah. Don't think it's all about the money. The money is good, but you also need to learn how to help people for free. Well, that's the much we can take on Business Hub. It's been an exciting conversation. At least one thing I've learned is corporate law is the way to go. Only if you know your onions. Don't think that it's all about the money. You will read, you'll carry out research. It's not free. It's not free, and it's not easy. You have to have the knowledge. You also have to have the willpower as well. That's another thing that it's important to take into cognizance. What is your, in a minute or less, because I know we're out of time already. What is that message or that you would give to any aspiring lawyer who is thinking, okay, I've heard what you said now, I want to get into your field? What's that thing you would say to them right now?
All right. I think for a corporate lawyer, first principles, the fundamentals are important. You must understand contracts, offer acceptance, consideration, intention to create legal relations. The foundation really. go over them over and over again. I mean, what you studied in university, it's not time to throw it away. They will form the fundaments of everything. Then also your reputation is very important. You know, how you carry yourself, how you
Mhm.
dress, how you speak, you know, how you also write, lawyering skills, advocacy skills. You cannot do away with such things also. Then ethics, very, very important. I mean, you've said a lot about making money as a lawyer today, but you know,
Yes, yes, certain
the money you
things.
want to make now
Uh,
can, when you are not, ethical about making money now, you could damage future money you are here to make.
I didn't look at it from that perspective. So
Yeah,
what I'm doing now can affect my future.
yeah.
Okay, so I know now. Go and look for all the skeleton in the cupboard and super everything else.
Well,
Thank you so much, Amy, for all the insight you've given today. So, for anyone who's listening now and trying to, be mentored, okay, get more insight, or possibly they have work for you, how can they reach you on your social media handles?
absolutely.
So, what's your
So
social?
on Instagram, Temi Dosunmu. Um, on LinkedIn is Ebenezer Dosunmu. So you could reach out to me through those channels.
Okay. Now you have all the um insights, you have all the answers at your well, basically in your hands. What you need to do is work with what you have and do it afraid. That's what I'm taking from this. Do it afraid, but do it well. All right, Lagos, that is where we draw a curtain on Business Hub. There's still much more lined up for you. At 6, I'll come back to take your reactions to the musings I shared at 5. Looking forward to your thoughts.